She was the girl no one wanted, the ugly duckling with no wolf, no power, no chance. But tonight, one silver-eyed alpha sees something no one else could. Who will he choose? The answer will shock the entire pack. The crimson moon hung low in the sky, casting its eerie glow over the village of Crescent Moon. Tonight, its light dripped like blood over cobblestones, illuminating the silhouettes of werewolves and humans mingling in the grand auction hall. The air was thick with anticipation and something more primal, a tremor of desire and fear. The mating auction was a tradition older than anyone could remember. Every year, the most powerful packs would converge here, bringing their eligible members to bid for a mate. It was a spectacle of beauty, power, and prestige. Strong wolves paraded, their eyes glowing, their muscles rippling beneath silks and fine leathers. Elegance met ferocity, and everyone wanted to be chosen or to choose wisely. But there was one girl who didn't fit the mold. Dora. Standing at the very edge of the hall, she seemed to shrink into herself. Her grey dress was plain, unadorned. No jewels glinted in the candlelight. Her hair fell loosely, with a few unruly strands escaping, and her hands were clammy, fingers twisted in nervous knots. She had watched the other women, strong, radiant, confident, walk past, their eyes glowing with the aura of their wolves. And Dora? She had no glow. No aura. No wolf of her own. She had always been invisible. Even her family treated her like an afterthought. Her stepmother's cruel whispers had followed her into adulthood. You're a disgrace. Even the pack laughs at your weakness. You'll never be chosen. Dora's throat tightened as she remembered the words. She had spent years hiding, serving, being the girl no one noticed, the girl no one wanted. But tonight, she had made a decision. Tonight, she would stand tall. I may be nothing to them, she whispered to herself, her voice shaking. But I refuse to be nothing to myself. Her best friend, Lyra, squeezed her hand. Lyra had been the only one who believed in her, who had reminded her that strength came from within, not just from the wolf. You have more courage than anyone I know, Lyra said softly. Even if no one bids, you'll walk away knowing you tried. Dora nodded, drawing a deep breath. The drums began to beat. Boom, boom, boom. The auction had begun. One by one, the women stepped onto the platform, each presenting themselves, each flaunting their wolf's power. Glowing eyes, sharp teeth, sinewy muscles, and rippling auras. The crowd's applause and gasps grew louder with each bid. And Dora's stomach twisted. She felt the weight of every pair of eyes upon her, judging, comparing, dismissing. Finally, the auctioneer's voice echoed. And now, Dora. The hall fell into a stunned silence. Then, a ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. Who even brought her here? One wolf muttered. Is she, for real? Another whispered. She doesn't have a wolf. She can't even compete. Dora's cheeks burned. Every head turned toward her. Every pair of glowing eyes seemed to pierce her very soul. She forced her chin up and stepped forward onto the platform. Her knees trembled, her hands shook, but she refused to run. Not tonight. The auctioneer cleared his throat awkwardly. Well, she may not be extraordinary, his words faltered. Even he couldn't lie convincingly. But I assure you, her heart is pure. Who will bid for Dora? Silence. She tried to speak, voice barely above a whisper. I am kind. I am loyal. I have courage. No one cares, someone shouted. Laughter erupted. It was sharp, cruel, and cutting. Dora felt tears pricking her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. She swallowed hard. Her heart was pounding in her chest like a drumbeat, her own private battle between despair and courage raging inside. And then, out of the silence, came a single voice. I'll bid. The hall froze. All laughter stopped. All whispers ceased. The crowd parted as a tall figure stepped forward. His eyes glowed silver, piercing the dimly lit hall like shards of moonlight. He radiated power, a dominance that made even the bravest werewolves tremble. 500, he said, his voice low and commanding. Gasps filled the room. "Who is that?" a woman whispered. "Could it be?" someone else murmured. Dora's knees felt like jelly. She stared at him, confused, stunned. She didn't even know his name. And yet, he was bidding on her. "Do you know who he is?" Lyra whispered in awe. Dora shook her head. Her heart was a storm of hope, fear, and disbelief. The auctioneer stammered. "Starting bid, 500. Sold." "No, wait, another bid." But no one else moved. No one dared challenge him. Dora's mind raced. Why would a wolf like him, an alpha, surely, someone of immense power, choose her, the girl with no aura, no wolf, no visible power? His gaze never left her. It was intense, almost painful in its focus. And for the first time in her life, Dora felt seen. Truly seen. Her wolf may be silent. Her aura may be invisible. But she realized something in that moment. Maybe, just maybe, she was enough. The crimson moon outside cast its eerie glow over the hall, bathing the scene in a surreal, otherworldly light. Dora's heart, for the first time in years, dared to hope. And the auction, once a symbol of rejection and ridicule, suddenly became a place of possibility. Tonight, the girl no one wanted was about to discover that being chosen was about more than appearances. The girl with no wolf. Dora had always known she was different. In the world of werewolves, power wasn't just strength or speed, it was identity. Every werewolf awakens their wolf at a certain age. The wolf is more than a companion, it is the essence of your soul, your strength, your aura, your place in the pack. At 18, every girl and boy undergoes the awakening ceremony. The entire pack gathers in the ancient forest, under the light of the twin moons. Wolves howl, elders chant, and energy pulses through the air. It is supposed to be a celebration. A rite of passage. A moment when potential meets power. But when Dora's turn came, nothing happened. She had sat in the center of the sacred circle, surrounded by the golden glow of every other wolf awakening. Friends screamed with joy as their wolves appeared, majestic, powerful, loyal extensions of themselves. Her stepmother had spat at her. "Nothing. You are worthless. Even the simplest wolf could manifest in you." Her father, who rarely spoke, shook his head in disappointment. And Dora had been left in silence. No glow. No spirit. No power. Just emptiness. She tried to ignore the pain, tried to tell herself she didn't need a wolf to be strong. But in a world ruled by wolf strength, invisibility meant weakness. Rejection. Ridicule. A life on the margins. For years, she had been the ghost of her pack. She served, cleaned, helped others train, and remained quiet. Nobody saw her. Nobody heard her. She had learned to hide the hurt behind polite smiles and lowered eyes. But that pain never left. It lingered like a shadow, stretching across her heart. And then, the mating auction. The idea had struck her weeks ago, almost as a joke at first. Who would even notice me? She had thought. I don't even have a wolf. But Lyra had insisted. You have something they can't measure, Lyra said, her voice firm. You have a heart, courage, humor. People chase strength, but what about soul? What about loyalty? What about love that lasts beyond appearances? That matters. Dora had laughed bitterly at first, but something in her friend's words lingered. Maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. Not to impress, not to compete, not to shine in the traditional sense. But to be seen for who she truly was. And so, she prepared. 4 days, she walked through the forests, practicing her posture, her voice, her smile. She polished her plain grey dress until it shimmered under sunlight. She tried to memorize compliments, but quickly realized the truth. She couldn't fake herself. Her friend Lyra had hugged her tight before the auction. Just be yourself, she whispered. That's the only way you'll ever find someone who sees the real you. Dora had taken a deep breath and nodded. She felt the familiar fear gnaw at her chest, but alongside it, a strange warmth, a flicker of hope. The day of the auction, the hall was alive with excitement. Wolves from other packs strutted, their power radiating in waves. The crowd buzzed with anticipation as the auctioneer called each name. Dora lingered in the shadows, watching the other girls shine. Their wolves glowed like liquid gold, eyes gleaming, fangs glinting in the light. They danced across the stage with confidence, accepting bids, smiling with power. And then she realized, tonight, no one would notice her. Not truly. Not until he stepped forward. Her heart had not yet realized it, but it was about to change everything. In that moment of quiet observation, she felt her wolflessness acutely. Every other girl's aura highlighted her invisibility. Whispers cut sharper than claws. She has no wolf, she can't even compete. Her chest tightened. She wanted to shrink, to hide, to leave. But she didn't. Something deep inside told her that walking away now would be giving up on herself. And Dora refused to give up, not tonight. She took a final breath, straightened her back, and waited for the inevitable humiliation. The drums began. Boom, boom, boom. The auctioneer's gavel struck the podium. Each beat echoed like a warning, a heartbeat of the hall itself. As names were called, each woman stepped forward, each wolf displayed, each bid announced. The energy in the room was electric. Every gaze she felt on her, except for one pair. A pair of silver eyes, glowing like twin moons, fixed on her. Dora didn't know why, but her stomach twisted. Those eyes weren't judgmental. They weren't cruel. They were curious. Hungry. Watching. Waiting. For her. And in that moment, Dora realized something she had never truly admitted to herself. Hope was terrifying. Because hope meant the possibility of disappointment. But maybe, it was worth the risk. The moment had come. Dora felt the stage beneath her trembling, though it was solid stone. The air in the grand auction hall was electric, buzzing with anticipation, and she could hear the excited murmurs of the crowd like a distant storm. Her hands were clammy, her chest heaving, every heartbeat echoing in her ears. The auctioneer's voice boomed through the hall. And now, Dora. Silence fell like a weight. Then, laughter. Sharp. Cruel. Unforgiving. Who would even bid on her? Whispered a pale-haired wolf. She doesn't even have a wolf, someone else jeered. She's nothing. Dora's stomach twisted, but she refused to flee. She had trained herself for this moment, forced herself to believe in the impossible, that she could stand here and be seen not for looks, not for power, but for something deeper. She stepped onto the stage, her grey dress flowing around her like a whisper. The spotlight caught her hair, her pale face, her trembling fingers. She swallowed hard. The laughter hit her like cold steel. Every cruel glance and snide comment felt like a knife. She wanted to vanish. Please. I have courage, I am loyal, she whispered, voice breaking. No one cares, shouted a voice from the crowd, cutting her words in half. Laughter erupted, louder this time, rolling through the hall like thunder. Dora's knees shook, but she stood. She drew a deep breath, willing herself to keep her chin up. And then she saw him. The tall figure in the shadows, silver eyes glowing, his presence commanding attention even from the farthest corner of the room. Every head turned, every whisper ceased. The crowd parted subtly, almost unconsciously, to make room for him. I'll bid, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. The hall froze. Dora blinked, unsure if her mind had betrayed her. I bid 500, he repeated, stepping fully into the light. Gasps echoed around her. The air seemed to crackle with tension. Who is that? Someone whispered in awe. Is it the Lichen King? Murmured another. The auctioneer's jaw dropped. 500, bid confirmed. Is there another? No one moved. The murmurings turned into whispers of shock. Everyone had assumed that tonight, the girl no one noticed would leave without a bid. And yet, here was a wolf, the wolf, placing a bid on her. Dora's heart thundered. She didn't know his name. She didn't know why he was bidding on her. She only knew one thing. For the first time in her life, someone saw her. Truly saw her. The auction continued, but every other bid faded into the background. Every face in the crowd blurred. All that mattered were his eyes, silver, sharp, intense, unyielding. The auctioneer tried to regain control. Another bid. Going once, going twice. The man raised his hand. I'll go 1,000. Shock rippled across the room. 2,000. Someone called, trying to challenge him, but the sound was weak, feeble compared to his presence. 5,000, he countered, and the hall went utterly silent. The gavel struck. Sold. Dora's mind spun. She had been humiliated, laughed at, scorned, and yet now, the most powerful wolf in the room had chosen her. Chosen her. The crowd whispered, some in envy, some in disbelief. Even the other bachelorettes couldn't hide their shock. Dora's hands were shaking, but she raised her head. Her heart felt as though it might burst, torn between relief, disbelief, and the tiny, fragile spark of hope. The man approached. Every step was deliberate, radiating power and confidence. He stopped a few feet away, gaze locked onto hers. Why, me? She whispered, her voice trembling. He tilted his head slightly, silver eyes glinting in the candlelight. Because, he said, soft but deadly, you are the only one whose scent I cannot ignore. The crowd gasped again, louder this time. Her friend Lyra, standing at the edge of the hall, mouthed, I told you. Dora's heart felt like it would shatter. She wanted to speak, to thank him, to ask him why, but words caught in her throat. He stepped closer, the air around him shimmering with raw energy. The sound of his footsteps was almost deafening in her ears, yet in some strange way, it drowned out all the ridicule, all the laughter, all the pain she had endured for years. You. Choose me, she whispered, disbelief coloring every word. His gaze softened just enough for her to see it, but the intensity never left. I see more than you know, Dora. Beauty fades, power fades, but truth, connection, that lasts. That is eternal. And I see it in you. Her chest tightened. She didn't understand fully, but for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. Recognized. Worthy. The laughter of the crowd faded into nothingness. The whispers became distant echoes. All that remained was him, his eyes locked onto hers, and a heartbeat that matched hers. And in that heartbeat, something shifted. Something fragile but unbreakable. Dora straightened her back, tears threatening to fall, but refusing to let them stain her face. For the first time, she didn't feel humiliated. She felt chosen. Tonight, the girl no one wanted had not only survived her public shaming. She had become the focus of every eye, not because of power, not because of wolf, not because of beauty, but because someone had dared to see her soul. And that would change everything. The alpha who shocked them all. The hall had been alive with laughter and whispers, the air buzzing with expectation and disdain. But the moment the silver-eyed figure stepped forward, the energy shifted. Every head turned. Every whisper stopped. Every wolf in the room felt it. He was not just any wolf. He was the alpha, the lichen king himself. His presence was magnetic, terrifying, overwhelming. Even the most powerful wolves of other packs instinctively lowered their gazes. The air seemed to vibrate around him, as if the hall itself acknowledged his dominance. Dora's breath caught. She felt her knees weaken, her chest tightening. Yet, amid fear, there was curiosity. He wasn't here to humiliate her, wasn't here to mock her like the rest. His eyes, sharp, silver, intense, were fixed on her. The murmurs around her swelled into disbelief. Is it him? A wolf whispered. The Lichen King, another gasped. How, why? The auctioneer stammered, trying to regain control. Sold urtu ua. The alpha's gaze never wavered. He took deliberate steps toward the stage, each movement radiating power, control, and unspoken danger. With every step, the crowd's murmurs died into silence. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Dora's heart thundered. Her wolfless state felt painfully exposed under the scrutiny of someone so powerful. Yet, paradoxically, she did not feel small. She felt recognized, chosen, seen in a way she had never been. When he stopped a few feet from her, the silence was absolute. Even the auctioneer's gavel felt trivial in the presence of this being. You chose me? Dora's voice was a whisper, trembling with disbelief, hope, and fear. He tilted his head slightly, eyes glowing brighter under the chandelier's light. Because, he said, voice low and resonant, you are the only one whose scent I cannot ignore. The hall gasped audibly. Gasps filled every corner, reverberating off the high ceilings. No one had expected this. The crowd of powerful, confident wolves, all vying for attention, all respected and feared in their own right, had never seen such a bid. And yet, here it was, a deliberate, undeniable choice. He stepped closer. Every footfall was deliberate, controlled, commanding. The room seemed to pulse with his presence. His aura radiated dominance, but not in cruelty. It was a quiet, irresistible force that demanded attention and respect. Dora's mind raced. Why would the alpha, legendary, untouchable, feared by all, choose her, a girl who had no wolf, no aura, no power? His gaze softened ever so slightly, enough for Dora to sense depth beneath the intimidation. I see more than you know, he said. You are not defined by what you lack, but by what you carry inside. Courage, loyalty, heart, those are the things that matter. Tears welled in Dora's eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let weakness show. She had been humiliated, mocked, and overlooked for too long. And yet, here he was, affirming her worth with nothing but his unwavering attention. The crowd, sensing the tension, began to murmur again. Could it be true? The Lichen King chose her. The other girls, who had walked the stage with glowing wolves and confident smiles, felt a chill. Their whispers were tinged with envy, disbelief, and fear. Even some of the Alpha's contemporaries looked uneasy, sensing that this choice was not superficial, not based on looks or strength. Dora's friend Lyra, standing at the edge of the hall, whispered, I told you he would see you. Dora's gaze returned to the Alpha. He was closer now, yet respectful, leaving space while maintaining his intense focus. You chose me, she repeated, trying to wrap her mind around it. He tilted his head again, studying her as if weighing the depths of her soul. I did. Others are blinded by appearances, by wolves, by power. But I see you. Her chest tightened, heart pounding. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The girl who had always been invisible, the one laughed at, ignored, and dismissed, was now the center of attention for the most powerful being in the room. He reached out a hand, not in possession, but in invitation. Come. Walk with me. The hall watched in stunned silence as Dora, trembling but steady, accepted his hand. The entire energy of the room shifted. Laughter was gone. Whispers died. Shock replaced scorn. And as they walked together, side by side, something unspoken passed between them. It was not power, not dominance, not strength, it was connection. Recognition. Acceptance. For the first time, Dora did not feel small, weak, or invisible. She felt chosen. The auction, once a cruel reminder of her inadequacies, had transformed into the moment that defined her. She realized that being chosen was not about power, beauty, or aura, it was about being truly seen. And the Alpha. He had seen her, not as she appeared, but as she truly was. The secret she didn't know. The auction was over, but Dora's heart was still pounding. The hall had emptied, leaving only the fading whispers of stunned wolves behind. Yet, she didn't leave. She followed the silver-eyed Alpha into the quiet corridors of his ancestral castle, a place she had only heard of in whispered legends. The walls were lined with ancient tapestries depicting battles and celebrations of the Lichen line. Candlelight flickered, casting moving shadows across Dora's face, highlighting both fear and awe. Every step she took echoed in the vast hall, a drumbeat of anticipation and dread. The Alpha walked beside her, his presence steady and commanding, yet not oppressive. He moved with the grace of someone who had mastered every step, every gesture, every heartbeat. And though she had expected intimidation, she found something else, an unspoken invitation, a careful attention to her every movement. You're not afraid of me? He asked, his silver eyes catching the candlelight, glowing with intensity. "I am," she admitted, voice trembling. "But you didn't look at me like I was nothing." He stopped, turning to face her fully. The distance between them was small, yet charged. She could feel the warmth of his aura, the raw power simmering just beneath the surface. And in that moment, she understood. The Lycan King did not frighten her because he was cruel, he frightened her because he saw the truth. "You're not nothing," he said, soft but powerful, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate in her chest. "You're rare." Dora's breath caught. "What do you mean?" He stepped closer, closer than before, and for a moment, the castle itself seemed to fade around them. "Your wolf, it's not missing." Her head jerked back. "What?" He reached out, letting his hand hover just inches from her chest, not touching, but letting her feel the heat and energy radiating from him. "It's sealed," he explained, voice dropping to a whisper meant only for her. "Sealed by ancient magic, hidden by your lineage. Not dead, not absent, hidden. Waiting." Dora's mind spun. She had lived her entire life believing herself incomplete, invisible, powerless. And now she learned her wolf had been there all along, locked away by a force she didn't understand. "When it awakens," he continued, silver eyes glowing brighter, "you won't be the weak girl they laughed at. You'll be the one they fear." Her heart thundered in her chest. The idea of power, of recognition, of transformation, it was intoxicating, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. "But I don't know how," she whispered, tears welling. "I've never even felt it." He smiled faintly, a dangerous, alluring curve of his lips. "That is why I am here. To guide you. To protect you. To ensure that when your wolf rises, it does so without limits. Without fear. Without chains." Dora's eyes met his, and in that gaze, she felt something she had never felt before: safety. Acceptance. Connection. The silence stretched, filled with unspoken promises and tension that could ignite at any moment. Then he spoke again, voice low, intimate. "You have endured rejection, humiliation, loneliness, yet here you stand. Stronger than you realize. Courageous beyond measure. That is why I chose you." Her chest tightened. Her past, her pain, her insecurities, all of it flashed before her eyes. The girl laughed at, mocked, ignored, now stood at the side of the most powerful wolf alive. She had been seen, chosen, and in his eyes, she was already extraordinary. I don't know what to say," she admitted, voice trembling. He stepped even closer, so close she could feel his breath, warm and steady, brushing against her hair. "You don't need to say anything," he whispered. "Just trust. Trust yourself. And trust me." And in that moment, something awakened. Not her wolf, not yet, but her own sense of purpose, power, and hope. The girl who had once been invisible, the ugly duckling, began to see herself differently. She was no longer a victim of circumstance. She was chosen. She was seen. And she was about to rise. The castle around them seemed to hum with energy. Shadows stretched and twisted, reflecting the growing power within Dora. She felt a warmth in her chest, a pulse that seemed almost alive. Her wolf, though still hidden, responded to his presence. The seal had been broken not by magic, but by recognition, by connection, by the one who had truly seen her. "Soon," he said, his voice a promise, "you will rise. And when you do, nothing will ever be the same." Dora swallowed hard, her fear mingling with anticipation. She had waited her whole life for this. For someone to see her, to recognize her, to guide her. And now that moment had come. The Alpha extended his hand once more, a gesture of invitation and partnership. "Walk with me," he said, and she took it without hesitation. For the first time, Dora felt the possibility of her own power. Not the illusion of it, not the empty affirmation of others, but real, undeniable, hidden strength waiting to emerge. And as they walked together through the silent corridors of the castle, she understood one thing: her life had just begun. The Queen rises. The night air was electric. The crimson moon bathed the castle in a blood-red glow, flickering through the towering stained glass windows. Dora's heart thundered like a drum inside her chest. She could feel the energy in the corridors, in the stones beneath her feet, in the very air she breathed. Something ancient and primal was awakening within her. Beside her, the Alpha watched, silver eyes shimmering with power and intensity. His gaze was unwavering, calm yet commanding, like the eye of a storm. Dora could feel the pull of his presence, the magnetic force that drew not just her attention, but her very soul. "Are you ready?" he asked, voice low, resonant, and filled with warmth she hadn't expected from someone so fearsome. I think so," she whispered, though uncertainty lingered. Fear and anticipation warred in her chest. She had faced humiliation, loneliness, and rejection, yet this unknown power was something entirely different. Something terrifying. He stepped closer, letting her feel the warmth radiating from him, the aura of his wolf blending with her own nascent energy. "Trust yourself. Trust the wolf inside. It has always been there. Waiting. Patient. Strong." Dora drew in a shaky breath, closing her eyes, and reached deep within herself. Memories of every moment she had been overlooked, mocked, or ignored surfaced like embers of a long-forgotten fire. Every insult, every scornful laugh, every painful glance transformed into fuel for the awakening. Then, it happened. A surge of energy ripped through her body. Her legs trembled, but she stood firm. A golden light began to glow faintly beneath her skin, spreading outward like sunrise spilling across a dark horizon. She opened her eyes, and for the first time, she saw it, her wolf. It was magnificent, ethereal, and powerful. A silver-gray form with eyes of molten gold, radiating strength, courage, and loyalty. It did not roar or bear fangs, it simply existed, perfect, unstoppable, and hers. The seal that had bound it for years had shattered. The Alpha stepped back, awed. "It's beautiful," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the surge of energy filling the hall. Dora's chest heaved as she looked at her reflection in the polished marble floor. Her wolf's aura shimmered around her like a halo, blending with her own human form, creating something wholly new. She felt powerful, unbreakable, and radiant not because of others' approval, but because of her own strength. Then she felt it, the connection to him. Not attraction, not lust, not dominance, but something deeper, primal, eternal. The wolf inside her recognized him, sensed him as a mate, as a partner, as the one who had believed in her when no one else had. He stepped forward, extending his hand once more, and this time, it was not an invitation, it was a bond. "Together," he said, voice low, magnetic, and filled with promise. "We are stronger. Together, nothing can touch us." Dora took his hand. The moment they touched, energy surged like lightning. Their wolves, separate yet intertwined, howled in harmony, a sound that resonated through the castle walls, through the forest, through the night itself. The corridors, once silent, vibrated with their power. Candles flickered, shadows danced, and the crimson moon seemed to shine brighter, acknowledging the rise of something extraordinary. Dora laughed, a pure, joyful sound. It echoed through the castle, bouncing off the stone walls, rebounding into the night. She had never laughed like this before. Never felt such freedom, such confidence, such unshakable certainty. The Alpha smiled, eyes glowing, wolf aura blending with hers. "You've risen," he said softly. "The girl they mocked, the girl they ignored, is no longer invisible. You are queen of yourself, and soon, you will be queen of more." Her wolf nuzzled her mind, whispering strength, courage, and resolve. She felt unstoppable, untouchable, alive. And in that moment, she realized something fundamental. Power without fear, beauty without pretense, and love without conditions were hers to command. The castle doors opened, revealing the forest bathed in moonlight. Wolves from other packs stopped in awe, sensing the energy radiating from her. The whispers that had once ridiculed her were gone. Every eye now watched in awe, respect, and fear. Dora and the Alpha stepped out into the night together. Their wolves roamed at their sides, golden and silver eyes gleaming in the darkness. The forest itself seemed to acknowledge their bond, the wind whispering through the trees in celebration. And for the first time, Dora understood something she had never believed. Love, true love, sees beyond appearances. True strength, real strength, comes from within. And true connection can awaken even the most hidden power. The girl who had once been the ugly duckling, laughed at, ignored, and dismissed, now stood transformed not just by her wolf, but by the unwavering belief of one silver-eyed alpha who saw her worth. Together, they howled to the crimson moon, a declaration of power, unity, and love. A promise to the world that the underestimated, the overlooked, and the invisible are never truly powerless. And the forest echoed back, carrying their story, their triumph, and their love into eternity. Love beyond the hunt. The forest fell silent. Only the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the echoes of their howls. Dora stood beside the silver-eyed alpha, her golden wolf aura shimmering like liquid sunlight, while his silver eyes glimmered with power and protection. She had risen from humiliation, from invisibility, from the whispers that told her she was nothing. She had faced the world, faced the doubts, and embraced the fire within her. And now, she was unstoppable. The alpha smiled at her, an expression soft yet commanding, and she felt a warmth she had never known. "You were always extraordinary," he said. "You only needed to see it yourself." Dora laughed, a sound that was free, triumphant, and filled with hope. "And you were the one who made me believe," she replied, her eyes sparkling like twin moons. They stepped forward together into the moonlit clearing, wolves at their sides, energy surging around them in waves of gold and silver. In that moment, it didn't matter what the world thought. They had found something far greater than appearances, than power, than expectations. They had found each other. And so, the ugly duckling became a queen, not by beauty, but by courage. Not by power, but by heart. And the alpha, who had dared to see beyond the surface, found a partner unlike any other, one whose soul shone brighter than any wolf's aura in the night. Their story is a reminder: true love sees beyond the surface. True strength comes from within. And the most powerful bond is the one forged by trust, courage, and heart. Yellowheart, if you loved Dora and the alpha's journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share this story with anyone who needs to be reminded that being yourself is the most powerful magic of all. And remember, even the ugly duckling can rise to greatness.